This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. I think it should go without saying that social media, which gets villainized quite often, can play a very positive role in people's lives. If you are super alienated from society, if you're super lonely, if you don't have the means of going out and connecting with people and meeting people in person, it can be a great way to meet new people, to stay in touch with people. If you have family that has moved elsewhere and you want to stay in touch with them and see photos of friends and family members, it is great for that. If you're looking to organize a protest movement in Tunisia or Egypt, it is great for that. There's a lot of negative aspects of social media, but I think when we always focus on the negative aspects of it, we overlook a lot of the very positive aspects of it. It's a great way to discover new radio shows, new television shows, new podcasts. It's a great way to have interactive discussions with people. It can do a lot of things, which is why, billions of people are on it. But the fact remains that for children, the documented effects of social media use are largely negative. I'm not saying there aren't some positives there as well, but I think they're largely negative. So, why are we mentioning this? Well, the Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, thinks social media should come with a warning label. He wrote an op-ed in the New York Times yesterday that has been shared all over my news feeds on all forms of social media. Why? Well, he wants a warning that social media has been linked to mental health risks for adolescents. It's really interesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will share it on my Facebook page, because if you're on Facebook already, chances are it's too late for you. You're probably beyond redemption. Whatever damage is going to be done is probably already done. Facebook.com/MoranoFan if you want to read it. Here's an excerpt. The mental health crisis among young people is an emergency, and social media has emerged as an important contributor. Adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of anxiety and depression symptoms. And the average daily use in this age group, as of the summer of 2023, was 4.8 hours. Additionally, nearly half of adolescents say social media makes them feel worse about their bodies. And the headline of the article is, Surgeon General, why I'm calling for a warning label on social media platforms. I'm not even sure how this would work. I mean, when you buy a carton of cigarettes and you have the Surgeon General's warning on there, it's very easy to see. You just slap it on the carton there. But how would this work? Would you log on to Facebook or Twitter or TikTok and then you'd see a warning? Surgeon General's warning, social media use has been shown to have anxiety for children. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think I'm against this. I'm curious what you think. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Should social media have a warning label the way cigarettes do?
A question. Since before your sun burned hot in space and before your race was born, I have awaited a question.
Here was the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy on the Today Show yesterday with Savannah Guthrie.
Parents are struggling all over the country. I've spent time with thousands of parents over the last few years all over America. And the number one question they often ask me about is social media. They want to know, is this safe for my kids? How should I manage it? And what the data is telling us, Savannah, is not only have companies not demonstrated that their platforms are safe for kids, but there is growing evidence of harm. It shows us, in fact, that when adolescents spend more than 3 hours a day on social media, we're seeing an association with a doubling of risk of anxiety and depression symptoms. And the average amount of use per day among adolescents is nearly 5 hours. So that's deeply concerning to me, not just as Surgeon General, but as a parent myself. Now, a warning label would help parents to understand these risks. Many parents don't know that those risks exist. And we have data from tobacco warning labels that in fact tells us that they can be helpful in changing awareness and changing behavior. Keep in mind, when Congress authorized these labels for tobacco more than half a century ago, or nearly half a century ago, the smoking rate in America was above 40%. Today, it's under 12%. That's an extraordinary amount of progress. Labels were a part of that effort.
So creating a Surgeon General's warning for social media, according to the Surgeon General, is a necessary step to respond to the defining public health challenge of our time. I'm trying to work my way through this because you know what I think my issue with this is? Social media use can be, and it often is, deleterious to one's mental health. Smoking cigarettes is always deleterious to your health. Always. There's no, if you're using social media to do positive things, I don't think it will lead to increased levels of anxiety and everything else. I recognize that a lot of young people aren't, and it's a problem. And by the way, I think Vivek Murthy is coming from a very good place here. I think that he is, right on the money when it comes to loneliness. Remember, he was the one that talked about loneliness as an epidemic. But this one, I don't know. To me, it goes a little far. And, I was talking to my wife about this because she usually has a good sense for this thing, for these sort of things. And she said, look, parents should know that leaving their child to go on these devices and spend 5 hours a day on them is not good for them. They should know. And if at this point they don't know, is a warning label really going to do anything to stop them? Probably not. Probably not. So I don't know how effective this warning label would be at changing behavior. I also think, as I said, maybe it's 10% of young people, maybe it's 20%, but there are a lot of young people that use social media in a very helpful way for themselves and for others. So unlike cigarettes, which should always have a warning label because they're always bad for you, social media use could be bad. It could be good. What do you think? The Surgeon General wants a warning, a Surgeon General's warning for social media use. I tend to think it's not a good idea. 800-848-9222. Here was the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy speaking with Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show.
What has happened over the last nearly 2 decades that social media has been around is truly unconscionable when it comes to the health of our kids. We have allowed these platforms to exist, to evolve, to proliferate, to really occupy so much space in our children's lives. And our kids themselves are telling us about the mental health impact. I just finished a college tour where I spent time with young people all around our country, and they brought up social media in every engagement we had, talking about how it makes them feel worse about their body image, how it makes them feel worse about their lives as they're constantly comparing themselves to others. But here's the thing, Savannah, many of them say that they can't get off it because the platforms are often designed to maximize how much time our kids are spending on them, and despite the fact that many of them are experiencing harm.
And I understand what he's saying there. And look, I'm receptive to that. But I almost think that if that's the case, maybe you need to ban social media for young people. Maybe not. Okay. Maybe a warning label is the way to go. I just question if it's effective, if it would be effective, and if it's the right prescription here. And for reasons that I'm probably not doing a good job articulating, I'm just leaning no, even though that I recognize rampant social media use is a problem for children, but I lean no. What do you think? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. JR is in Brooklyn. What do you make of this, JR?
Hey, good morning, Frank. Listen, it's a couple of different things. Number one, it should have a click to enter option, just like an adult website. And adult monitoring is also available for all these things. Like you said, if the parents have to be paying attention.
Sure.
It's almost like a frozen lake. So you can see kids play ice hockey on a frozen lake somewhere all day. Nothing will happen. All year, nothing will happen. You hit the wrong patch, boom, you fall through the ice. And I think it's very similar to that. And the ice can get thinner and thinner and thinner the more and more and more you're on it.
So it sounds like you think maybe the warning label is a good idea.
I think it's a good idea, number one. And I think that the social media companies would actually benefit from it, because here they are saying, hey, listen, we warned you. We listened to you. We don't really agree with you, because we're not going to say our product is bad for your mental health. But, okay, we'll play along with you. And now when you tell me you have an issue with your child because of social media, don't say we didn't warn you. We gave you the click to enter, and if your child lied about his age, or just like an adult website. You after a certain point, the social media companies no longer can be responsible for your actions.
I get that, right? I mean, you make a good case, JR. What about what I was alluding to earlier? The fact that, I mean, I like your analogy about the ice and the tapping on the ice, and the thinner the ice gets, the more dangerous it gets. But what about what I mentioned is that some people, let's say you're a bullied child that has very few friends and no one to talk to. Maybe social media can be a means for you to express yourself in a manner that you're not comfortable doing around your peers. And it can be a way to even talk to folks that are going through something similar, finding a group for, say, stuttering teenagers that are bullied, and you're able to find a Facebook group to that effect. Doesn't that show that there is a positive use case as well for social media?
Absolutely. That's the thick part of the ice. If you're not an athlete in school, and you're not an athlete, and all the kids in your classes are athletes, you're not going to fit in. But if you find the Dungeons and Dragons page for teenagers, but here you go. You're right. That's the thick part of the ice. It's safe. It's okay. And it's beneficial without question. It's 100%, but it's not poison.
But see, that's why I bristle a little bit at throwing the same label that we put on cigarettes on social media, or the same type of warning label, because cigarettes are poison, right? They're always going to be bad for you.
Every single cigarette is designed as poison, without question.
Yeah, see,
each one is uniformed.
Yeah,
each one is uniformed to do the same thing. Social media is not like that.
Right.
It's a click to enter.
Yeah, click to enter. Okay, I like that. I mean, maybe that's a good compromise there. Max in Las Vegas, listening on KDawn. Hello, Max.
Hey, Hey, superstar. Boy, yeah, I go to group, if you, and I know you do, the Bob Newhart show. I go to group twice a day, and my shrink. And aside from that, it really shook me up when I went to a hot bar, almost a nightclub, a big bar, and 4 hot girls came in. They took out their phones and they sat down and they were texting each other. They never said a word to anybody. They just sat down and
yes, drives me crazy. Drives me crazy.
Appalling. I thought that it was like, I don't even want to hit on you girls.
Now, Max, I'm with you. Yeah. I hear you. But I recognize that, especially when we're talking about children, social media can be a very precarious thing. Do you think, as the Surgeon General does, that there should be a warning label?
There's so much bad. What I learned, superstar, 52% of America needs to be in therapy. And that's probably
what
the
percentage?
world.
62%?
52%.
52%.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yes. And it's staggering. And well, I've learned so much from my shrink. You know, the classic and great movie when Al Pacino says, "I don't know who you are. We haven't investigated you." My grandfather died when my father was 3. My other grandfather. If you're going to get involved with somebody who lost a parent very early on in life, you're going to be dealing with a messed up individual. That's the first, so that's where the 52%.
Yeah, no,
from.
I totally get that. Max, thank you. I want to try and get some other people. Thank you for calling, as always. And Max seems like a nice guy, but I don't know. He kind of dodged my question on should there be a warning label, which is kind of the heart of what Vivek Murthy is bringing to the forefront here. 800-848-9222. Matt Blaze, you have an opinion on this? Now, you're not a big social media guy, right?
No, I look at Facebook, every day, I guess, but I don't tweet out, I don't TikTok, or I don't do any of that stuff.
All right, but so you're not on there 3 hours, 4 hours a day?
No, but what I'm thinking is, did a warning label ever stop anyone from not smoking?
Well, he maintains that it has, right? He points to the statistics before that warning label went on there versus now, and he believes that it has. I'm going to play this again. And let me play this again, and then I'll comment again.
Parents are struggling all over the country. I've spent time with thousands of parents over the last few years all over America. And the number one question they often ask me about is social media. They want to know, is this safe for my kids? How should I manage it? And what the data is telling us, Savannah, is not only have companies not demonstrated that their platforms are safe for kids, but there's growing evidence of harm. It shows us, in fact, that when adolescents spend more than 3 hours a day on social media, we're seeing an association with a doubling of risk of anxiety and depression symptoms. And the average amount of use per day among adolescents is nearly 5 hours. So that's deeply concerning to me, not just as Surgeon General, but as a parent myself. Now, a warning label would help parents to understand these risks. Many parents don't know that those risks exist. And we have data from tobacco warning labels that in fact tells us that they can be helpful in changing awareness and changing behavior. Keep in mind, when Congress authorized these labels for tobacco more than half a century ago, or nearly half a century ago, the smoking rate in America was above 40%. Today, it's under 12%. That's an extraordinary amount of progress. Labels were a part of that effort.
Or the subtext there is F you, Matt Blaze. That's what he says.
Yeah,
there.
But he's also not talking. First of all, he wants to put labels on social media. So, of course, he's going to cite those numbers. He's also not citing the fact that the education that was drilled into our heads after they banned TV commercials for cigarettes, then they banned magazine ads for cigarettes. It was drilled into our heads about don't smoke through the 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s. You think anybody looked at a pack of cigarettes who just bought a pack and go, oh, the Surgeon General warns that smoking is bad for your health. No kidding. We've known that already. It's been drilled into our heads in school every day.
But here's why I don't have an issue with the Surgeon General's warning on the cigarettes, because as I was saying to JR, they're all bad for you, right? Social media is probably
right. No,
bad
I'm
for
not
you.
saying that I have a problem with, but I'm saying, did it label ever
Right.
stop
So you're
anybody?
saying, like Rachel was, that it's not going to be effective.
No, it's not going to do anything. You have to know your children. And if you think your kid is a sensitive kid that's going to be affected by something on social media, or you know that your kid is being bullied on social media, then that's when you step in and say, well, your social media time is limited.
And you know what it is?
It depends on the kid.
And you know what? Everything is social media now for children. It's not just social media sites. They use video games as social media. They play video games with friends, and they communicate. And by the way, adults do this too. I have adult friends that play video games with other adults, and they communicate via text and audio the same way that you would in any other social media platform. And again, we're all a product of where we come from, right? So I look at the boys on the block where I live, and we're at our neighbor's house last week, and one of them is on his iPad trying to communicate with a friend, trying to play a video game or something with a friend. And my son, who's 2.5, is really into the iPad. Now, I'm trying not to make this a big thing. And also, honestly, I'm trying to get a little work done for the show. So I've got my computer out. How am I going to say, to everybody, please, I don't want my son on the computer when I've got my computer out, right? And maybe that's part of the problem, is that they've seen a normalizing of behavior among older folks. But, he's out there, the other boy, his brother's out there, Carmine's out there. There might have been one or two other children out there as well. And because there were so many children out there, it was distracting this young man from interacting with his friend on the tablet. So, and I just will never understand that. Why on a beautiful day as a child, when you could be playing outside, you're on a tablet or whatever they called an iPad and interacting with people rather than interacting with the people in real life. But he got frustrated by not being able to hear what was on the game or whatever it was he was playing, and he went inside. Now, I felt bad for that boy that he's going inside to play, but on the other hand, I was happy that my son was no longer tempted by this screen that's outside, because I don't want him transfixed on the screen. So I really don't like how ubiquitous social media use seems to be among young people. But I don't know about this warning label. To Matt's point and Rachel's, I don't know how effective it's going to be. And I don't know how appropriate it is, because, and this is the last time I'll mention this, cigarettes are always bad. Social media is often bad. You want a positive example of social media? Follow me on Twitter at Frank Morano, Frank Morano. Let me say hello to Mike in Woodside. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Frank, there are positive tools to be used with social media, and this is the problem that a lot of people in old media don't like. Where was he talking about this? He was talking about this on a TV network whose ratings are dying. So they want the labels to scare people to go back to traditional media so they can manage the message. And that is something that the Surgeon General is playing to. What the Surgeon General should do is use social media like other countries. Singapore, the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. You go over to Europe. They're using social media to educate people on public health, mental health, and other methods. It's called social communication. They teach university courses on it. You can get a master's degree on it. And government agencies all over the world are using it in a positive way. Storm warnings, any other issues, when people have problems, they tap their social media platforms because it is a way to directly communicate with people and use it positively. Is warning labels needed on some aspects of social media? Yeah, for those kids surfing on top of the 7 trains, you certainly need warning labels. But that is one particular form of social media that can be damaging. So there's some good prank and there's some bad, and parents have to learn to do it. Now, for Carmine, please get him some coloring books so he's not always on the iPad.
Well, we don't have an iPad, but it's just, I don't like that he sees other children with their iPad because he wants to see what they're screaming, what they're looking at. But yeah, he's got plenty of coloring books. But even if we don't have the screens, if every other child that he's interacting with has these screens, he's going to be exposed to this, which I'm not crazy about. But that's such an interesting point that Mike made. And it's one, I don't know if it has any merit to it, but it's one that I hadn't thought of, where he's saying that he's going on television to essentially decry a big competitor to television, which is in social media. It reminds me a little bit of the early days of radio, where newspapers were terrified that radio was going to take their audience. And, you know, it's one of the things that always gets pointed to with that Orson Welles War in the Worlds broadcast. If you research it, there really was not mass panic in the streets, but it was reported in the newspapers that there was mass panic in the streets. The newspapers reported it, including very supposedly credible publications, because they viewed radio as a competitor and they didn't want radio cutting into their market share. 800-848-9222. So they were doing, the newspaper people were doing to radio the same thing that he's saying that they're doing with social media now, which is interesting. Ed is in Westchester. Hi, Ed.
Hey, Frank. So I think you've got two things going on here. I think you've got distraction and content. So the content's important because certain content in social media can be harmful to the kids, but this distraction factor is just as bad. I can give you 2 examples. I go to the gym every day and kids are sitting on these machines doing nothing for 3 or 4 minutes at a time because they're on their phones. They're in their own world and nobody else can do anything because they're just sitting there doing nothing. And the second example is I own an event space with hundreds of kids there. And lately you spoke about kids on video games. There'll be a group of boys that are playing the same video game against each other, sitting in a group of 200 people, not talking and playing video games with each other. And it's crazy. So I think you've got 2 things going on. The distraction can be just as bad as the content. And as I was saying to the screener, remember TV was the same thing. When TV first came out, I'm sure they were saying, you know, here's a warning. If you plop your kid in front of the TV for 8 hours a day, your kid's going to be socially inept and not be able to function in society. So it's kind of like that also when TV first came out.
Right. And, you know, I don't remember anybody talking about a Surgeon General warning at the time when it comes to television. Very interesting, Ed. Thank you. Squeeze in one more here before we break. Joe is in Ronkonkoma. Joe, what do we think? Warning label for social media for children? Do we need it? Is it going to work?
I agree with you 100%, Frank. It's not going to work. I'm going to tell you what would work. 2 options. One option, when they buy the devices for their children, they should make them sign a waiver understanding that this device is going to cause these problems because no one's going to worry about clicking. But you notice this rapid decline in cigarette smoking. The reason why is because they got to hit them in the pocket. If you want to go on these sites, if people have to stop paying for all these sites, a pack of cigarettes right now in New York City is over $20. And what's happening? People can't afford it. You think parents that can barely put food on the table are going to be able to pay for all these sites for their children? That's the way to control it. Putting a warning label, all you got to do is click and then keep going. These kids are more savvy. I don't know half the things my kids know with the internet. So they're going to be able to get around that. But I think if you hit them in the pocket and when the parents are going out to buy these devices and there's a warning label when you buy the device, maybe it will hit the parent and say, wait, maybe I should buy them a book. That's what I think. Have a good night, Frank.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. This is The Other Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222. Straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.
Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-HOPE or text NY.
Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. When you're looking for concrete materials for your next construction project, call Diamondback Ready Mix on Staten Island. This family-owned and operated business is the go-to supplier for concrete materials in New York, New Jersey, and the surrounding tri-state areas. My friends and experts from Diamondback Ready Mix are experts and fully licensed and insured in New York and in New Jersey to deliver ready-mix concrete to your job site. Give them a call today for more information at 718-650-5649, 718-650-5649.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Madonna singing Borderline. This is a birthday bumper music selection from our colleague and a daily contributor to this program, Dominic Carter, who is celebrating his 60th birthday today. I figured I'd get him a card. I don't know what to get him. I figured I'd get him a card and a Diet Dr. Pepper. Matt, what do you think? Did you get anything for Dominic?
I did not, but I'll sign the card.
All right, great. All right, so I'll take care of the card. I'll get the card. What about the soda stores that you're always hanging out at? Can you take care of this Diet Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, I'll get the Diet Dr. Pepper.
All right, where do you get those?
Wawa.
Wawa. Okay, Wawa. All right. Yeah, I had one the other day. I forget where I was, but it was very refreshing. Oh, I know where I was. I went, this is the day that I went to Home Depot to get the paint for Rachel. And, I had very specific instructions about what kind of paint to get. So I went to the paint counter and I gave them the instructions about what it needed to be. And they said, all right, well, I have to mix this up special. And it takes 15 minutes. So Carmine and I walk around the store. He was looking for a car to buy. He thinks every store sells cars. When his babysitter, who was kind enough to watch him yesterday, was taking him out, I don't know where they were. I think they went to I don't know where they were, but they're in a shopping center, and he leads her to the drugstore that we go to because he knows they sell cars there. And she bought him a car. But this kid, he's drawn to cars like a moth to a flame. And he gets very disappointed whenever any store doesn't sell cars. Now, meanwhile, I know Home Depot doesn't sell cars. And I told him, he says, can I get a car? And I said, no. Well, I said, if they have cars there, you can get one. I don't think they do, but if they have one, you can get one. And he says, no, I think they do. I don't think they do. And sure enough, I was right. But they did sell Diet Dr. Pepper. So I did purchase one, and it was quite refreshing. I must say, I could see why they're number 2. All right. So speaking of Carmine, yesterday I was waiting to testify at the latest Charter Revision Commission hearing via Zoom. And I was waiting, and I forget what else I was doing. I was doing 2 or 3 things simultaneously. But I was inside, and I'm at our kitchen table because my wife was loading the bird feeder with bird seed and watering all of her plants. And Carmine was in the backyard with her. So after she was done with her work day. So I don't know. I usually go into my office when I have Zoom meetings or things like that. But for whatever reason, I was at the kitchen table because that's where I was working from. And then figure, all right, the computer's here. Let me just do the Zoom meeting from here. And then I hear a little bit of a hullabaloo. I hear that they're back in the house. And now I'm speaking. I only have a few minutes to give my commentary. And they're making noise and stuff. And I went into my office and I hear my wife trying to say to Carmine, shh, 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 Daddy's talking. And I go into the office even while I'm talking so that they can make noise and stuff. And then I go into the backyard and my wife says, I wouldn't mind him being distracted if you want to take him somewhere, maybe in the garage or for a walk, wherever, for reasons that I'll tell you later. So anyway, a little later, maybe an hour or so after we are doing our thing, I take him for a walk. A little later, she tells me that in our backyard, which is now teeming with birds, it's a bird buffet back there. There's birds and birds and birds, all kinds of birds. Yesterday, a cardinal was coming to visit. I'm not talking about the baseball player, but it's an actual bird, not even a religious figure. It's funny. I once asked my Uncle John, how do you become a cardinal? He tells me, well, you go to spring training and you try out. And I said, no. I said, a religious cardinal. And he said, oh, well, you just pray before you try out. But this was an actual bird. So it was nice to see. Nice to see him enjoying all that birdseed. So anyway, Carmine and my wife are out there in the backyard, and he finds a dead bird, and he sees it. And he says, Mommy, what's this? And she didn't want to, at this point, have a whole discussion about life and death. And so she tells him something to the effect of, oh, this bird is sick. He's got a very bad boo-boo. And Carmine says, oh, should we get him a Band-Aid? And then she says, well, I think he even may need to go to the doctor. He's very, very sick and very hurt. And that's why she was wanting me to distract him and take him out there, because she didn't want to continue this conversation about this dead bird. And I don't blame her. So she made arrangements while I was playing with Carmine elsewhere to, I don't know what she did with the bird, but she took it out of visual range, and then Carmine didn't bring it up again. So we'll see. But that was yesterday was his first experience with a dead bird. I don't think he touched it. I wasn't present for this. I got all this secondhand. But I said to my wife, I hope he didn't die, and I wasn't joking about this, fighting with the other birds over this bird seed, because these birds are fired up about this bird seed. I don't know what's in this bird seed, but they are feasting on this stuff. I have said that expression, eat like a bird, is meaningless. These birds don't stop eating. These birds eat like they each have a tapeworm. 800-848-9222. Hey, I got an email here. This is from Frankie in Glendale, who's a great guy. He is recuperating from a medical procedure, so he can't call in. But he said, if a simple label can save one child's life, it's worth it. He says, as you know, I lost my 15-year-old son because of an online challenge. Now, I agree with that. If a label can save anyone's life, I think it's great. My question is, does it? Does it save anyone's life? And the answer is, I don't think so. But I'm open to this, right? If Surgeon General Murthy can make a compelling case that it does, okay, I'm open to it. I'm already predisposed to not liking youth use of social media. So if a Surgeon General's warning is going to make a difference, great. I'm just not convinced it does. 800-848-9222 if you want to comment. 800-848-9222. Bill is in Connecticut. Hi, Bill.
Hello, Frank. Just want to let you know my wife and I, when we're up, enjoy your show very much. That being said, I'm 78 years old. I have 4 children. I have 10 grandchildren, all the way up to 21 years old. And the youngest is about 6 months. Listen to your stories about your 2-year-old son, Carmine. And I don't know the effectiveness of the Surgeon General's warning. That I don't know. What I do know is that the social media does have a dramatic effect on my grandkids. And it depends on the grandchild as to how much of an effect it has. Only point I want to make to you is forget about the toy cars. He's going to get over it. But something that's very difficult to get over is the social media. And it affects my grandchildren very differently depending on their makeup. I haven't watched it yet, but just yesterday, I was with my daughter and her granddaughter, and they were suggesting watching, and I'm suggesting to you that you watch, which I have not watched yet, a documentary called Social Dilemma.
Yeah, I've seen it. And I talked about it at the time that I saw it. It's quite good.
Is it good?
Very good.
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
Keep up the good work. We enjoy you. We enjoy your interaction with Curtis. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Right. Well, I'm not familiar with him, but I appreciate the feedback nonetheless. Yeah, that is quite good. The Social Dilemma, it's very good. It's on the Netflix. But, and you know, it's funny. I invited the filmmaker on the show, I think. He never got back to me, but that's fine. But the director of that is actually the son of a teacher that I had in high school, which I had no idea when I watched that this was the son of a teacher that I had, but that was interesting. All right. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is a birthday bumper music selection from my friend and colleague Dominic Carter, who is the big 6-0 today. 60, a milestone birthday if ever there was one. Happy birthday, Dominic. Very, very much enjoy having Dominic on this program on a daily basis as well. Hey, it's funny. I just got an email about this, but I had this on my list to bring to your attention anyway. Here is the latest with Voyager 1. And I've covered this in some of my previous conversations with Dr. Sky. But to me, this is one of the most fascinating things out there, period. Voyager 1 is the farthest man-made object from Earth. Isn't that interesting? The farthest man-made object from Earth. It is now fully back online and sending data from all 4 of its instruments. This space probe, which is 15 billion miles or 22 light hours from home, suffered a glitch in November and started sending back nonsense. NASA managed partial fixes in April and May and then achieved full science operations over the weekend. The Voyagers launched in 1977 on a planned 5-year mission. 5 years. But after 47 years, it's still working. Now outside the solar system's boundaries and sending info about interstellar space. And if you've seen Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is not the best of those Star Trek films. In fact, I didn't even make my wife watch it. I had her start with Star Trek 2. And I think if you're introducing the Star Trek films to someone for the first time, you can skip that one. But there is a key plot point involving one of these Voyager probes in that film, which is kind of interesting. But it has a lot of other problems in the film. All right. What is sad, though, about the Voyager 1 situation, it's great that it's still transmitting a half century after it was launched. But Ed Stone, who directed the Voyager project for 50 years, from 1972 to 2022, he did not live to see this. He died on June 9th at the age of 88. So when it got fully operational again last weekend, Ed Stone, unfortunately, wasn't around. But God bless you, Ed Stone, and thank you for everything that you've done for the sake of space exploration. All right, 800-848-9222. We're talking about this proposal by the Surgeon General to slap a warning label on social media use, specifically for youth use of social media. 800-848-9222. Melvin is in Indianapolis. Hi, Melvin.
How you doing, Frank? About your son, Carmen, I have a great computer for him. I had one in 1957. You heard me correctly, 1957. It was called Etch-a-Sketch. No batteries. It always worked. My parents put it on my lap, and they put me in the back of the car, so it was a laptop.
Yeah, he has an Etch-a-Sketch. He likes it.
You have to use your brain, and it's very good for coordination.
Mm-hmm.
So, that more kids need to have that today than these stupid computers.
Yeah, again, we don't have a computer for him, Melvin, so you're preaching to the choir.
The other thing I want to tell you about your other associate that had the birthday.
Yes.
I listen to him all the time. The name came off my head.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
I've been holding on.
Yeah.
I just want him to know that only young people get old. Are you aware of that?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean...
And do you know what happens to old people?
Well, eventually they die.
No, they get more experience.
Oh, all right, Melvin.
Tell that to your mother. She'll feel good.
There you go, Melvin. Thank you. Appreciate the call and the wisdom. Melvin's one of these guys that he loves to throw that twist at you. That's okay. It's okay. We like that. We like that he's listening. I feel bad that he didn't remember Dominic's name, but okay, fine. Joaquin is in Pennsylvania. What's on your mind, Joaquin?
You know what? The Surgeon General's thing to a young guy, that's probably like a shiny object that's going to just attract him because the man is telling them not to do it.
The forbidden fruit syndrome.
Yes. Hey, have you ever been to Sagamore Hill in Oyster Bay?
No, you've asked me this, and I have not been there.
You have to go there. If you're
I will. I will.
And, that was originally why I called. I mean, that man was just incredible. And, he started off as a sickly young, guy. And he brought himself to health, and he went out west, I guess, actually for his health. And he did so many things. It was just amazing. And you're right. I don't know how many lifetimes this guy lived.
Yeah, if people are just tuning in, we're talking about Theodore Roosevelt because somebody had asked me for a book recommendation. Joaquin, I can't argue with you, and we're on the same page on this one. But that's on my list of places to check out. I absolutely will. Thank you, Joaquin. All right, 800-848-9222. If, in spite of what the Surgeon General has said, you still want to go on social media, then please be sure to follow me on Twitter at Frank Morano. That's Frank Morano. One of the things that I didn't get to mention last week when it was announced is on Twitter, they're now going to allow nudity and other not safe for work content. I'm curious to see what that does to the platform, if it just becomes a porn platform now, or if it'll be, I don't know, somewhat regulated. We'll see. All right. In the words of the great Bob Grant, your influence counts. Use it.